Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the LOCUS Golden Hour podcast. My name is Kristina.
And I'm Lina.
So, this podcast is about sharing stories, advice, tips, and all things surrounding university and student life. So, today we'll be talking about LOCUS throughout the years, and we have the manager of off campus initiatives, Jess, on to chat with us. So, Jess, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Like Kristina said, my name's Jess. I'm the manager of off-campus first-year initiatives. I work within the Dean of Students office, and I manage the Locust program on both the Waterloo and Brantford campus and make sure that our off-campus first-year students are transitioning well to Laurier and kind of facilitating the different programming and supports to make sure that that happens. It's a very, 30-second synopsis of what I do.
Yay, it's great to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the podcast today.
I'm so excited.
I'm very excited too. All right, so we can start with a bit of an icebreaker question about the history of Locust. So, do you know where Lenny the Lynx came from? How he came to be our mascot guy?
On the Waterloo campus, not a clue. Lenny the Lynx predates even my involvement with Locust, which I think I got involved with the Locust program back in 2013, 2014, I want to say. And Lenny the Lynx is already well established on that campus. We had the mascot, so that also tells you how old the mascot costume is. But I don't know how and why we came up with the Lynx. It could be something that's worth looking into with some folks who were involved in Locust beforehand. But in Brantford, I know that we just kind of adopted the Lynx mascot when they started introducing mascots within the Golden Hawk Challenge. And I just said, if you're going to do this, can we be Locust Lynx across the two campuses? Because it makes it a lot easier for promo and buying the t-shirts and stuff like that, sharing the mascot. So Brantford kind of just adopted it, but I don't know where it came from in Waterloo.
That's amazing. I mean, what about teal though? Do you know anything about the color teal?
We had already been assigned teal when I took over the program too. So I think when maybe the first year of Hawk Weekend, which I want to say, I first heard about it when I was a student at Laurier back in, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself here. The first year I heard about it was about 2010. I don't know if that was the first Hawk Weekend year, but I just have a feeling that they would have assigned all of the residences. And at the time, Locust was a part of residence, all of their mascots and colors. And somehow we got Locust Lynx with teal. That's my best guess. I don't know. Like, don't fact check me because I don't know.
We won't. We don't know where to find this information either.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, since we got here, obviously Lenny the Lynx was already famous, and the color teal was a big thing. I mean, I love the color teal. I think it's unique, but it's also definitely hard to like shop for because it's like in between the blue, but also a little bit green. So you're like, oh, where do I land?
Yeah, admittedly not a great color for something that we want to carry through on competitions and stuff like that, but like for promotions, it's awesome. It pops, it looks great, it stands out, and it kind of matches with some of the Laurier colors, so big fan of that. But if I had to do it again, I would probably choose a different color for sure.
What color would you choose then?
I like the burgundy that I think it's the Bucart Buccaneers are burgundy.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
like that color. I would do a different shade of purple from like the Laurier purple, but I really like purple. So if I had a choice, it would probably be one of those two.
Those are good choices.
But I am happy with teal, so I'd like, yeah.
I feel like the Lynx, like just Lenny and the Lynx as an animal, it suits it so well too.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me that we call ourselves the Lynx pack because Lynx are notoriously independent animals and don't live in packs and live in isolation. But it works for what we do, and I think the concept of being a team and part of the Locust Lynx pack makes sense. But if you see two lynxes together, it's a very rare occurrence for sure.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that. I think that's pretty funny. But I love that.
We make it work.
Yeah, we do. I know you kind of mentioned you gave us our 30-second rundown of what you do, but you do so much behind the scenes. So I'm really curious, maybe give us a little bit of a deeper dive of what you do, or kind of like a backstory of how you ended up in the position, or like, how you kind of got to where you're at.
Sure. We'll start with how I ended up here, and then I can try and explain my role without taking up the next 4 hours of everyone's life. So I was a student on the Brantford campus. I started in 2006 and graduated in 2011. If you do the math, I definitely took the victory lap. But I was involved in things throughout my entire undergrad career. I was on the BRC, which is kind of like the same as the Waterloo Leadership Council in Waterloo. I volunteered for the Students' Union as a foot patrol volunteer, icebreaker. I was a coordinator for a marketing committee that doesn't exist anymore. And then I shifted focus to being a Dawn in residence and working in the student life office at the time, doing some leadership development programming. And by about my 4th year, I realized like, oh, this can be a career and it's actually a lot of fun. So then I really like still wanted to maintain my academics, and my goal was to be on the honors list, which I made, like barely, but I made it. And then I just really wanted to focus on developing relationships and learning about student affairs theory and student support theory and stuff like that, and making sure that I'm setting myself up to eventually work in student affairs full-time, ideally at Laurier. And upon graduation, a position that was split between this residence and student life office came up. I applied for it and was successful in getting it. So I did a lot of alternative programming for residents and leadership and diversity programming for the student life side of things. And it was supposed to be a 1-year contract, and that was about 10 years ago, and I'm still around. So I've had a number of different job titles, but essentially the focus of all of those roles have been supporting students as they transition to campus, bringing some student life to like the experience, and offering some really fun and innovative and engaging programming, and just making sure that there's something for students to do outside of the classroom, both for fun and also from an educational lens. And so I used to run a center called the Center for Student Life and Engagement, or CSLE, that had wellness education, student conduct educators, leadership ambassadors, LOCUS, and Jack.org was an organization for us before it went to campus clubs. And I remember, oh no, LOCUS wasn't a part of it at the time. And I remember back in like 2012, Adam Lawrence, who's the dean of students in Brantford, came into my office and said, "You're going to run LOCUS," and turned around and walked out. And my first like reaction was like, "What's LOCUS? Like a bug? You want me to run bugs?" Like that was my first sort of introduction to LOCUS. And then he explained to me what it was. And I was like, okay, this sounds cool. So met with the folks who ran LOCUS on the Waterloo campus, started to develop our version of what it could look like in Brantford. It was initially called Laurier OC, because I think you both might know, but I'm not a huge fan of the LOCUS acronym, just because it doesn't really say what we do. So I thought Laurier OC might be like a compromise. It wasn't. And then midway through planning for the first year of the Laurier OC program, there was some restructuring going on in the Department of Residence, and LOCUS, the portfolio that had LOCUS a part of it, was kind of being shifted around, and eventually they just offered it to me saying, "Hey, you're doing it in Brantford, do you want to do it in Waterloo?" And I was like, sure, that sounds cool. So for 1 year I had a Laurier OC program and a LOCUS program, and after the first year I just decided to make it the LOCUS program and just keep it simple for myself. And that's kind of how I ended up here. It eventually became a very significant part of my portfolio, and now it's like 80% the focus of it. And I've enjoyed like seeing it grow throughout the years. So that's how I ended up here. And for what I do on a day-to-day basis, it changes depending on the priority, depending on the time of year. But I spend a lot of time kind of developing, the short and long-term goals of LOCUS, kind of figuring out what the program is going to look like in the next academic year, what sort of training we need to provide the student leaders, what are some of the institutional goals that we need to align with LOCUS. Figuring out the budget is a big part of it, as I'm sure you're both aware as, former OCAs and current volunteers, and kind of figuring out that budget side of things. Some conduct stuff comes my way, not too often, but I am one of the folks who deals with that. And yeah, just really trying to make sure that the program has a good reputation on campus, looking for different ways to collaborate with different areas and kind of inform people that the LOCUS program exists. In Brantford, I think we've done a really good job of that. In Waterloo, I think there's still some work to be done to make it a little bit more recognizable on campus, but I'm really proud of what we've done so far. So it's really just getting the word out there and kind of just managing, putting out fires when they come up, making sure Mitch feels supported and is doing his job, and making sure that the OCAs are doing their job. So it's just kind of a waterfall effect, and I'm just kind of managing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a lot. But I mean, it's so amazing. You have such a such a grand portfolio of where, you started off and then now you're here, and it's so great to like obviously, you're very passionate about Locust, and
Mhm.
it's so evident through everything that you do for the program, and just being able to talk to you and feel that support as student leaders. So very thankful for that. And it was really great to kind of hear how you kind of ended up there. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's like the really, really brief Coles Note version. There are many more stories I can tell, but I will save it for a different podcast.
I also love to hear how much has changed in even just the past 10 years since you've been like working with Locust. Because even in the past about 2 years, it's changed a lot because of the transition to online, right? So
Yeah.
the size of the program, like all the different positions that are coming up, like me and Lena's role, virtual programming coordinators, that's new this year. That's
Mhm.
a really fun thing that we added. So yeah, it's crazy to see how much has changed and how much probably will change
Oh yeah.
after
Yeah.
this.
It's the pandemic has definitely shifted the focus of Locust. Oh, I hate saying that because it rhymes, but the focus of Locust and what's to come for sure. A really fun fact is the first year that Locust existed on the Brantford campus, your lovely coordinator Mitch was one of the first students involved.
Wow.
So
It's
he
like
was,
it
No
comes full
way.
circle.
yeah, he was in the first cohort of students who were part of the Locust program in Brantford, and now he runs it, which I think is a really cool for full circle moment.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He didn't
We're
volunteer for
learning.
Locust once throughout his undergrad career, which I only hold against him like a little bit, but he's made up for it now.
Wow. Okay. Well, then, do you have any like stories from, I guess, back? I don't want to say back in the day, but like,
Oh gosh.
I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable or anything. But like, do you have any stories from, I guess, of like how? Because you mentioned like growth of the Locust program. Like, where was it like back then versus, I guess, now?
Now, yeah, that's a really good question. So the first year that I was involved with Locus, there was about, I want to say 60 students involved who had registered in the Brantford program. And I think we had a staff team of 8 or 9, which was too many. Um, and in Waterloo, I think we had about 15 OCAs, and I want to say around 500 to 600 students registered in the program. Again, too many OCAs. But yeah, and it stayed pretty consistent. I think we managed to get Brantford registration up to 100 a couple years ago. In Waterloo, I think the most we've had is about 750 pre-pandemic, I'll say, which I think is like really great numbers considering that the first year off campus population is pretty small. Like we usually get about 50% of the students registering for our program. Um, and then the pandemic arrived and flipped everyone's worlds upside down. And all of a sudden, like 95% of the first year students were off campus and 10% or 5% were living in residence. So we had to adapt pretty quickly and wanted to make sure that there was still enough support for the students. So we opened it up and eliminated the fee that was traditionally in place for students to join Locus. And we went from, the 500, 600, 700, when you include the Brantford campus, to about 4,000 people, I think, was registered in the program last year,
Wow.
if not more. I'm going to say 4,000 because I know that's safe. So it was like exponential growth. Like Mitch and we didn't really know how to make this work. So it was, I think Neelash did the math and it was almost 1,000% growth from one year to the next. And like, I'm really proud of how we handled it and how we were able to still offer supports to the students, and create some really great virtual programming, which inspired both of your roles. And we want to continue it on even when the pandemic subsides or ends or however this plays out. We think that virtual programming is going to be a key part of the off-campus experience in particular. But yeah, so we've gone from 500 to 4,000 now. I think there's about 3 to 3,000 students in the program now, so it's a bit of a dip, and I don't know what to expect for next year. We're still figuring that out.
That's actually incredible because I remember as an OCA last year, since everything was online, I got to meet students who lived in India, who lived in Korea, right? So like the program just, it's global.
Yeah.
It's global now.
Yeah, it became interesting trying to award prizes to folks who lived not in Canada. We figured it out, but it was just a new problem that we hadn't anticipated. It's like, how do we send a gift card to somebody who lives in India? And we kind of worked through that. But yeah, it was really cool having a global program.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, even just like being a part of Locus like in my first year and then kind of transitioning to that online and just seeing literally, as you mentioned, like that exponential growth. And it was like out of nowhere. And we were just supporting students left, right, and center, even like just the Laurier community. I'm really glad to see like even just the recognition of Locus has definitely gone up, I'd say, in terms of what we do and like just like being able to volunteer in other aspects of what we of Laurier and all the offerings. So that's really great.
Yeah, one of my sayings that I don't know if either of you have heard me say it before, but Mitch would have ad nauseum, is that we have these first year students for 8 months of their academic career. So it's not on us to teach them everything, because once they progress to second year or to wherever, if they're a mature transfer student, like they don't have that same support. So it's important that they know where to go on campus to get that support, because it's not us anymore. So it's really important for us to teach them about the different services and programs to them on campus, so they're not completely lost when they enter second year. So really a focus, or a really important part for me, is transitioning them to Locust, but then also transitioning them out of Locust too.
That's a good point, because we can help them. We can do our best to do that, right? But then we also point them to resources. Be like, I could help you with this, but here's a better resource. You could go to the writing center, something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, go to the experts where they are, because I'm not an expert on writing, and I wouldn't want our team to teach someone how to write an academic essay, especially when that service exists on campus.
Mhm.
For sure. Do you have any, I guess, fun memories or like what is your favorite thing about your job?
I think that is a very tough question. I made notes, so I'm going to refer to those. I've got a couple of favorite things about my job. It's hard to pick out a particular moment because there's been so many in the past 10 years. So I'm just going to talk generally, if that's cool. I like that my job is different every day and has been different over the course of the past decade that I've been working at Laurier. I feel like I don't have the same job title or role more than 3 years before we have to pivot to address something else that's going on campus, and that really excites me. And I like building things from nothing and making them something, which I did with Locust and Brantford. And Waterloo, I just kind of took what was there and tried to make it a little bit better and adapt as we go that as we went on in the years. So I like that it's always different. I rarely have a day that's the same as the day before. And for sure, the best part of my job is working with students and student leaders. I love to see what the student leaders come up with, what ideas they have, and how I can kind of help them see it through to like an actual program or support service or whatever it is. Like when we first started talking about the Twitch initiative, like I was helping and guiding and stuff like that, but really I left it up to the experts to kind of figure out how to do it, and just provided some guidance here and there. So I really like helping the students kind of make their programming dreams come true. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, but I really like working with students in that regard. And this is going to sound really backwards, but one of my favorite events of the year is Convocation. It's so fun to see those student leaders who showed up to campus as shy first years, not knowing what to do, like stomp across that stage with so much confidence, so much experience, different skill sets that they never had when they step foot on campus, and just like see what they do with the experience and knowledge that's come from both inside and outside of the classroom. Like Convocation is hands down my favorite thing, which seems kind of backwards, but I'm just going to speak the truth here. So yeah, I just really like working with students, and any opportunity that I get to do that is always a highlight of my day.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, like, I can definitely speak that, like, yeah, just getting the support from you and Mitch, like, really, we get to just come up with these crazy ideas, and we're like, I don't even know if like this programming can happen. Like this event, I have this crazy idea, but then getting support from other OCAs, other student leaders, and then also just support from Mitch, and they're like, we're like, go, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like here's this and this, and then obviously logistically you have to plan things out, but I know like having Jess and Mitch around to just like kind of support us there. It's always good to, like you kind of mentioned, like programming dreams. I know it might seem cheesy, but I feel like it's honestly true, because I like a lot of the virtual program that we've come up with, like I never really imagined us ever doing. Like we just have some random ideas and we kind of just made them come true. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for all your support throughout the years and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great because as students, as a Locus student, you get a lot of support, but then also as an OCA or as an exec, we also get a lot of support and we get to sort of exercise those creative ideas. Like later this month, Lena and I are running a pet stream, like a pet talent show. And who would have thought, like when I started as an OCA last year, that we'd have a Twitch channel and we'd be like creating a Zoom call for people to show off their pets' talents. Like I remember when Lena came to me with the idea, it was just idea, pet stream, and then we just ran with it. Like we had no other ideas, but we just started running with it, and then it all came together. So that's one of the creative things that we've come up with that I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see how that goes. I saw the promo for it in our Slack channel. I was like, this is the greatest idea ever. I'm so pumped.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. It's literally so funny because like I literally just texted Christina. I was like pet stream, and she's like, "What?" Like I literally didn't even message like There's no context. Like sometimes we just have ideas and we just message each other, and then the next day we're like, "What?" And then we talk to each other at our meetings and we start planning these, and we're like, "Oh, like I don't even know like how that happened." So yeah, I mean it's always a good spot for creativity and just being able to kind of come up with ideas and bounce ideas off of each other.
Also meeting people, because I wouldn't have met Lena if it wasn't for Locus, because we're on different campuses, different programs. So Lena and I meet every week to plan things, and then we also message it. Like it's great
Yeah.
that this came out of it too.
Oh, I love that. That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm definitely thankful even with the pandemic, obviously, like there have been some hard times, but I think what I really liked is being able to work with like the Brantford campus. So like kind of as Locus as a whole, we're growing on both campuses and being able to work as student leaders with other people that I've like literally never met before. I think that's a really great opportunity.
Yeah, I really like the approach that we've taken to the multi-campus support and working together. I think it's a pretty neat experience for our students to kind of collaborate across campuses. I know in a virtual setting it's a lot easier because the campus lines are very blurred, but I hope that once we kind of go back to being in person and the campus lines are a little bit more structured, that there's still an opportunity to collaborate across the two campuses and bring together the team. Because I've really liked the growth that we've seen with the OCAs and the different opportunities that have come out of it, by being one Locust team. But obviously we'd still want to respect like the needs of the Brantford campus, the needs of the Waterloo campus, but ultimately we are part of the Laurier community, and I think that's one community, not necessarily two or three.
Mhm.
For sure. And I guess this is our Moneyball question, our big question here. What are your goals for Locus in the future, or your vision, maybe even just the next year? Maybe you're thinking even longer term. What do you think?
This question is aptly timed. Mitch and I have been having a lot of conversations about what we want from the program in the future, what we think is realistic, and like how we can make it happen. So this is the big question that's been on my brain for about a week and a half now, and I still don't have an answer really. But I would really like to continue with the auto enroll part of Locus. I think it's really important that all off-campus first-year students can join our program and kind of reduce the barrier that came with the fee, because I know, like, especially now, money is going to be very tight for students, and $85 is a lot of money to ask when you don't really know what you're getting at the beginning of the year. Because when we say, hey, join Locus, it's great, blah, 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 it just looks like they don't understand what we're saying, and they're just terrified and so overwhelmed that none of the information is sticking. So eliminating that barrier, I think, is really important to both myself and Mitch. So figuring out ways to make that happen. In particular, I really want to see your two roles, the virtual programming coordinator roles, expand and kind of continue to offer that virtual programming. So students who commute from Toronto can still participate in the student experience in a way that is comfortable for them. I think that's a key focus for, I said it again, focus for Locus in the coming years. I've been saying this for years, but I would like a commuter lounge on the Waterloo campus. In Brantford, we have a really great one in the Carnegie building. It's got study tables, some soft seating, kitchenette, and it's bookable for programming. So I think it's a really great space for commuter students to hang out. There's the lockers available to them too. In Waterloo, we make do with what we have, but it is not a big enough space for the number of people involved in our program. So hopefully we can get some space on campus soon and have something similar where off-campus students can just kind of hang out and chill out in between classes. This isn't Locus in particular, but it's more like the off-campus initiatives area. But I think it's really important that we start offering some supports and programs and services about living in our community in both Brantford and Waterloo. So what does it mean to be a good neighbor? What are the bylaws that you need to be aware of? When does garbage come? How to keep your apartment and housing safe during, the breaks, that sort of thing, and kind of maybe facilitate more roommate matchups where folks can come and meet new people that they might be interested in living with, and kind of offering a little bit more support that way, because we don't really do that as an institution, and I think it's something that students could benefit from. And like my big goal, which I don't know if it'll ever be realized, would be to offer some sort of upper year student support. I don't think it needs to be as hand-holdy as Locus in particular, but I think it'd be really cool to, offer some supports for second year students and third and fourth year students if they need it, even if it's just like a welcome back day in September to kind of get them reacquainted with things. So taking some of the stuff that we've learned from the Laurier 201 program and applying it in a more broad sense. I think that would be really great, but I don't know if the folks who make those decisions have that on their radar because of a bunch of other priorities, which I totally understand. But I think it'd be really cool to do. So I'll keep pushing for it, and hopefully one day I'll get some interest and some buy-in.
Those are awesome ideas. I especially like the one about connecting with the neighborhood, like around Waterloo and around Brantford. Because especially in Brantford, the campus is right in the downtown, like integrated there. So I really love that idea. That makes me so excited.
Yeah, I have like ideas here and there, and I've talked to other institutions who have something similar in Ontario, and I think UBC I've talked to as well. And I think there's some cool things that we can do. So hopefully, I think we'll see that sooner than later based on some conversations that I'm having. But yeah, out of that entire list, I think the virtual programming coordinator expansion and housing supports will be the first things that you see come from the Locus program for sure. And hopefully auto enroll. Fingers crossed.
That's awesome. That's so exciting. And just hearing that gets kind of me pumped up for the next year and what's to come for Locust. So that's really great. This is our last portion of the podcast. So we call this Words of Wisdom. Insert the Words of Wisdom jingle here.
Words of Wisdom.
So essentially, we just give tips, we summarize what we talked about. It's really your time to kind of tell our listeners and our viewers anything that you want them to remember. So, not to put you on the spot here, Jess, but do you have any tips for our Golden Hawks who are listening today?
Yeah, I have a couple that I think I can share. The first one has to do with roommate searching when you're trying to figure out who you want to live with. My advice is to don't live with your friends, live with other students that you're not like super good friends with, like maybe classmates or someone in your program. From personal experience and experiences of past student leaders that I've worked with, living with your friends can get really, really messy. And if you don't have the same sort of lifestyle as them, it can cause a lot of conflicts. So living with someone who you're not super good friends with gives you that safe space when you need time alone, and might help develop new friends and be introduced to a new group of folks around campus. So it sounds backwards, but I don't recommend living with your friends. And the other piece of advice, in the lens of getting involved, is apply for all of the positions that you're interested in. If you're thinking about going for a student union coordinator position, the residence life Dawn position, and maybe like an OCA and Locus, let's say, apply for all of them, because going through the interview process will only make you a better interviewer. It'll keep your options open in terms of deciding what you want. And it buys you a bit of time to kind of reflect on what your goals are and what you want from the future. Because if you don't apply for the role, you're definitely not going to get it, but applying will leave that door open. So I always say apply to everything that you're interested in. And I guess like eat breakfast, like that's an important meal of the day. I think it's my favorite meal of the day. So making sure that if you're not a breakfast person, then at least make sure you're having some water to stay healthy and hydrated, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I have coffee, but that's like bean water, which I think kind of counts.
Bean water.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah. That's three. I think that's probably too many, but
No,
No,
that's awesome.
that was great. Those are really good tips. I'm not really a breakfast eater, but I know it's very important. So I will make sure to drink water and eat my breakfast. That was a good reminder for me. uh, Kristina, do you have anything else to say?
Not that I can think of right now, but I was mentally taking notes the entire time Jess was talking. I was like, oh yeah, that's so good. So
Write that down. Write that down.
yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, well, I guess we'll end there in terms of our podcast. Make sure you follow our podcast, subscribe, and leave a review. You can also follow us on Instagram at Locus Laurier to stay up to date with all of our events. And yeah, that's everything. So, we'll see you next time. And until then, stay golden, everyone. Bye.
Bye.